benefits. So we really didn't have any faith that these jobs were going to pay decent wages that would allow people to make ends meet in the Bronx and improve their lives.
It was threatening to displace people and displace business. They were basically operating as a Walmart in sheep's clothing. So we would have lost jobs, and what we would have gotten in exchange were some part-time, low-wage, no-benefit jobs. That's not acceptable.
So the RWDSU partnered with community groups to fight related companies and stop them from turning the Armory, a building that could help lift the community, into a poverty wage center that continued to drag the neighborhood down.
Nosotros estamos aquí con una gran coalición a nivel de la ciudad de Nueva York. Estamos aquí porque estamos viendo que los salarios de nuestros residentes siguen bajando. Estamos llamándole al alcalde que siguen apoyando este debate que no solamente fue de un asunto, un debate del Bronx, sino un debate a nivel de la ciudad de Nueva York.
I can honestly say that the RWDSU was the first union to think outside the box and actually say, you know what, let's do this. We can actually try and bring living wage jobs into the Armory.
People come before profits. People have a right to their dignity, and what we saw here was that their dignity was under attack.
So the RWDSU, along with its community partners, decided to stand up and fight the most powerful man in New York City, Mayor Bloomberg, and the largest developer in the city. As those fights escalated, the economy continued its downward spiral. The banks whose greed and lack of ethics helped cause the financial ruin were bailed out by the government.
Wachovia Wells Fargo was one of the banks that benefited from taxpayer dollars. The whole point was to keep the bank going so that our communities could continue to survive.
You know, they received millions and millions and millions of dollars. I don't even know how much money. I don't know if anybody knows how much money the banks received. And they used the money to take care of their own self. The money was supposed to have been passed down to the people that need it.
Meadowcraft, an Alabama-based furniture company, relied on Wachovia Bank for its operating capital. But Wells Fargo Wachovia, a huge recipient of taxpayers' money, decided to hoard the bailout funds instead of using it to fund small profitable companies like Meadowcraft. Without the working capital from Wachovia, Meadowcraft would be forced to shutter its doors.
Meadowcraft was the largest employer in that community. And when one person in that community hurt, we all hurt. So we all had to join together and just fight for the one purpose, and that's to keep that Meadowcraft open.
Meadowcraft had two plants, one in Wadley, Alabama, and one in Selma. These were communities that had been hit hard by the recession and desperately needed those jobs to survive. But without the capital from Wachovia, Meadowcraft was forced into debt. No other banks would come to their aid. Their only hope was to find someone to purchase Meadowcraft before it was too late. But that would take time. The RWDSU mobilized to put pressure on Wachovia Bank to continue funding Meadowcraft until a new buyer was found.
Brothers and sisters, our message to Wells Fargo is that when your earnings are up 47% over a year ago, there is no excuse for you not to save Meadowcraft.
And in the end, under extreme pressure brought on by the RWDSU, Wells Fargo Wachovia relented. They extended temporary funding to Meadowcraft until a buyer could be found. And though the Wadley plant has temporarily closed its doors, the Selma plant found a buyer, and 500 people went back to work.
Did we save Wadley, Alabama? No, we didn't. But through the coordinated effort of what happened in Wadley, we were able to save a plant in Selma, Alabama. 500 people working today because of what the union did by working together.
RWDSU members also joined together at the Tyson Poultry Plant in Shelbyville, Tennessee. The Tyson plant represents one of the most culturally diverse plants in the union.
Tyson plant is, I feel like, it is like in United Nations.
They come here because of what's going on in their country. They choose to come to America. And then we as Americans and we as union leaders, we open our arms and embrace them.
They have been fighting in Somalia, killing, looting, raping. No life has been spared. That's why we came here as a refuge. I live now peacefully in America.
Eid al-Fitr, the last day of Ramadan, is an important holiday for Muslim workers at Tyson, a day to be spent in celebration with their families, a day they hoped they wouldn't have to work.
You know, everybody's got different beliefs and stuff, and the Somalians, they feel that they need that day. So we tried our best to figure some way to get it.
So we sat down, we met with our membership, and we talked about it and we discussed it. So at the time we entered into negotiations, we made it part of our proposal. Tyson came back and agreed to recognize the holiday. And about a year later, it made the AP wire. Your Rush Limbaughs, your Sean Hannity's, your Bill O'Reilly's took it and ran with it.
It was in the newspaper here in Shelbyville for one thing, even as far as New York.
People from all across the country were just calling and harassing us. They just cuss you right out.
It kind of bothered me at first for people to talk like that, but like I said, I felt we was doing the right thing.
Say we're all supposed to be equal. You know, we're all supposed to be equal, just like a big family. You know, if you can do something for me, I can do something for you.
Standing up for workers, no matter their race or religion, is nothing new for the RWDSU. The RWDSU has a long history of standing up for civil rights throughout the U.S. and Canada.
One thing that we understand in the RWDSU family is we do not represent religion. We represent people.
We take care of our own, and it don't matter who it is, what color, creed, where they come from, religion, it doesn't matter.
That's what we're all about, is helping people. It doesn't matter what part of the world you come from. It doesn't matter what religion you are or what color you are. We're all in this basket together.
Members of the RWDSU continued to stand up against the right-wing attack machine as they backed Barack Obama in the 2008 elections. Fed up with 8 years of George Bush and dreading 4 more years of the same, members throughout the country left their jobs and families and campaigned for Obama in battleground states.
Even though it was, for 2 weeks away from home, I thought it was important.
I'm doing it for my children. I'm not doing it just for me. I'm doing it for my children and my grandchild.
Every morning I got up in Philadelphia, it was immense joy, it's happiness. It is, I was helping to achieve something that's bigger than me.
When I started going to the Republican houses and the wives saying Obama behind their husband back, and then I knew, I said, wow, I think we're gonna do this.
And on Election Day, the members of the RWDSU eagerly watched the returns come in.
Oh man, it was so crazy. I was home and we were sitting in front of the TV.
We was crying, men were crying. All that hard work paid off.
It was a good feeling. We did turn a red state blue, and that was so awesome.
I just got the biggest warmness in my chest. It was just like my heart opened up. It was like, thank you, Jesus.
The members once again proved that support of organized labor is vital to the political process.
I believe the union is who got President Obama elected, the union people throughout the United States.
Politicians, they know that without us, there will be no them.
While RWDSU members in the U.S. were fighting for political reform, in Canada, the members of the Northern Joint Council were fighting for the men and women who fight for them, the Canadian military.
Myself being a reservist, I saw a lot of guys and ladies go away for training, and they had to actually quit their job to receive the training, and the employer would decide upon their return whether they were going to hire them back or not. So we started implementing in our collective agreements a policy on reserve training.
The language just helps reserve employees go overseas or any NATO-sanctioned operation and not have to worry about when they come back, their job is still there.
The Northern Joint Council continued its defense of those who protect our lives by fighting to organize on-call firefighters in Ontario.
90% of the volunteer firefighters in the province of Ontario are non-union. And really they don't have anybody looking out for their rights or their interests.
Being a volunteer, it's not about the money, it's about your community. We've been asking for more training for a while, and the union started working on our behalf. We started getting more training.
They run into a house to save our lives. They're fighting to save our lives. It's the least we can